Hi, this is Dr. Lisabeth Saunders Medlock from Life by Design Coaching with your life coaching tip of the week for the week of October 24th, 2011. Today I'm going to be talking about life cycles and the cycle of renewal. And many of us feel like in our lives that we go through different cycles, we go through different phases. And there's an author called Fredrick Hudson that in his books, The Adult Years and Life Launch, proposes a cycle of renewal, and I've used it before in my workshops and in a really old newsletter from years ago, and people really responded to it, that it made sense to them, and it makes good sense to me too. These life stages that he calls life chapters, there's 4 of them, and he draws them in kind of a circle that you go from these phases, the 4 phases, from one to the next in a pretty predictable ways, and you keep going through this life cycle throughout your life again and again as you move through different stories in your life chapters. You create different stories for yourself, which I think is a really good, interesting way of kind of your whole life story and the chapters in your life. And so the 4 phases are the ones I'm going to go through. And phase 1 of it is the phase is called Go For It. And in this phase is when you're really on purpose, on fire, when you feel like what you're doing is right and you're happy with the stage in your life. This is the point where we really feel like we're focused on our goals, we're achieving success, we're working toward our dream, we're doing the things we're supposed to be doing, everything's in line with our goals, our purpose, our values, and basically your life is working for you. That's the Go For It phase. In phase 2, he calls the Doldrums, and it sometimes comes after a chapter where you're feeling really good. As you go into a chapter of your life, and this is a kind of a longer chapter, a protracted chapter of decline, where you kind of feel like, things aren't quite working the way I thought they were. I've achieved these things and I'm kind of dissatisfied or not really sure if this is what I want. So it's a period where you feel like you're in decline, you don't have great energy, you don't have great motivation, and you feel like this life chapter isn't quite working for you, but you also feel like you're not really sure if you can do anything about it. So the Doldrums is really, the purpose of it is to serve as a wake-up call that it's time for you to really rewrite this chapter of your life, to write a new story for yourself, to have a period of rebirth and re-beginning, and that you need to really do something differently in your life. So the Doldrums are a wake-up call, but you're not really sure what to do yet. That puts you into another phase, which he calls cocooning. And in the cocooning phase, kind of like in a butterfly phase when they go into their cocoon and their pupa phase, is when you really detach from your life chapter. You've decided it's not working. Now you kind of detach. You take emotional downtime from it. You disconnect. You go into a time that's really about reflection and thinking about the different possible paths that you can go down and where you are and what you want. And it's a phase where you really kind of go deep inside. I think that's why he calls it cocooning. You kind of take yourself and put yourself in that pupa, and you really disconnect and look inward and think about what your new life chapter is going to be. And this is really the phase where you're not in your new life chapter, but you're beginning to really get a sense of what that new life chapter might look like when you're cocooning. And you need to take the downtime to do that. That launches you into phase 4, which is called Getting Ready. In Getting Ready phase, you've done your cocooning, you've done your thinking, you've done your reflection. And in Getting Ready now, what it's really time to do is to test things out. So the Getting Ready phase is about experimentation. It's about testing out the different paths that you've been thinking about, and it's about really doing that kind of reinvention and putting it into action. Is this working? Is this going to work? I'm going to test this out. It's about networking, doing things differently. So it really is a time of testing and experimentation where you're really testing out, and this is where you really begin to say, okay, this works. This is going to be part of my new life chapter. And you really write the script for the new chapter in your life, the new story of your life in this phase and Getting Ready. And when you have that new chapter written for yourself is when you go back into phase 1, which you go for it. A phase when you're on fire, you have purpose because now you know where you're going. So you go through these cycles of life and these cycles of renewal many, many times. You also do mini transitions. He talks about mini transitions where you're in a chapter in your life, and instead of wanting to change that chapter completely, you feel like it needs to be tweaked. So it's okay, and you keep the main characters, but you're going to change the plot a little bit, and you're going to change the background a little bit. So you may change a job, but be in the same career. You may change location of where you are, and you can cross in different phases of this cycle without going through the 4 phases during a mini transition where you're just tweaking and revitalizing your current chapter without completely rewriting your story. So you can have mini transitions in the mix also, as well as the major life transitions. But I think these 4 phases are such a wonderful way of capturing what many of us go through as we keep reinventing ourselves in our lives, which I think is a great thing. And I hope you take this to heart and look at also more of Fredrick Hudson's work. He has a whole website. If you look up Fredrick Hudson and you look up Life Launch, that goes into a lot of the things about the cycle of renewal and the 4 phases. And I encourage you to look more at that because it makes a whole heck of a lot of sense. I hope you've enjoyed this life coaching tip of the week, and I'll see you next week.